Good morning, it's 6 a.m. Coffee with Shanda, and I'm fired up today. I want to talk about the one thing that transforms entrepreneurs from zero to millions and how you can do it too, as long as you follow these focus tips that I've learned how to, really embrace in my life to be able to create ridiculous results. So to be really clear, today's Coffee with Shanda, you really should have a pen and a paper so that you can write down the things that I share with you today. So if you are new to Coffee with Shanda, know that I do this every 6 a.m. Monday through Friday, 6 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Hi, Karen. Hi, Christina. And we usually have about 100 to 140 people live. And then throughout the day, we have tons of people who watch Coffee with Shanda. So if there's someone that you feel should hear this, there's somebody who's struggling in business or frustrated in business, or someone you believe in that you think could really take it to the next level, then please share the 6 a.m. Coffee with Shanda with them. I'm a big believer in looking up and helping people win with you. So sometimes the biggest breakthroughs that you can have in growing a business is actually being the type of person that not just helps people when they ask for it, but actually looks up and helps people when they don't ask for it, when you just know that you can help them to make a difference for them. There's a saying that says your network is your net worth, and I've been saying it for years. And if I can look back to the big levers in my business that have moved my business the fastest, it's always because I knew somebody great that I was able to make a difference for. In the byproduct of that is when you're the type, let me backtrack for a second. So many times when I talk to somebody, the reason why they don't charge enough, or they're afraid of the sales conversation, or they're not speaking on stages yet, often comes down to a worthiness question or a worthiness battle that they have inside. Like, I'm not sure that I'm worth it, or I'm good enough, which is another variation of worthiness. And so the way that you overcome that the fastest is to be so useful to people around you that when you put your head down on your pillow at nighttime, you realize, wow, I really am worthy because I'm the type of person who helps people on a regular basis. It is the quickest worthiness dial. So I'm going to talk about something called your big dials. If you've got a worthiness conversation, it's the quickest thing to turn up your worthiness conversation is to look out and see, who can I help today? What are the things I'm doing that are causing me to have success in my life? And how do I share that with people? Or who do I know can help this person succeed even better? And by the way, it doesn't have to be just a struggling person. It could be, I have many wildly successful friends in my life, and I am constantly looking up to see how can I move that dial in their life to help them be more successful or have more happiness or more free time in their life. So know that you can still help people who are wildly more successful than you. And you can also help people who are struggling worse than you. Regardless, just become that type of person. I promise you, the worthiness issues that you battle with around charging more, around, stretching yourself into a challenge that feels crazy for you to go after. If you want those things to amp up, turn up that dial, I'm going to promise you, help people succeed around you. Put your focus there. So, and I talked to you about the one thing that I've seen transform entrepreneurs from zero to millions, and how you can do it too. Write this down. There's really 3 things that I've identified that I think will help you. I know will help you, because I've coached over 3,000 people at this point and growing rapidly. And I can tell you who's going to be successful and who's not right off the bat based on these 3 things. So the first thing is to become obsessed. Obsessed, write this down. To become obsessed with one thing in your business. So often I'll see, let's say, a love coach. Like, I coach a lot of coaches because I am a coach. It just happens to be people want the model that I have, which is I get to work from home. I am going to be opening up an office, but I get to work from home, and I take off the last week of every month. I've been doing that for like over 3 years. I just sat in a mastermind and people were talking about, taking time off, and I took off 5.5 months last year and still grew my company by quantum leaps. And so, what I'm sharing with you, I actually do. And what I can tell you is you have to become obsessed about one thing. So I'll see a relationship coach that I will help grow them where they're making $500,000, $800,000 a year. And by the way, that's not an income claim. I'm just sharing just some real numbers of somebody I'm thinking in my head. And then all of a sudden people will start coming up to them saying, I really want to know how to make that type of money and how you're doing it. Can you teach me? And that might be another coach or relationship coach. And then they'll say, oh, Shanda, ding, 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 ding. I can see I can make some money over here. And so they'll open up what's called another vertical, which is basically another division inside their company, just to take those people to teach them business, yet they're not a business coach, they're a relationship coach. And so I share this with you because if you just chase the money, what you're going to find is, even though the money might be there, I'm very spiritual, and I read the Bible, and I'm very scripture based, not religious based, but very scripture based. And scripture will talk about something called the enemy, or whatever you want to call that. And it's, in my opinion, the enemy's way of distracting your mind a little bit to the right so that you miss your big jackpot. And so, I have a couple coaches that are doing that, where their industry and their unique ability is right here, but then they can see a way to make money, and they'll jump over here and start taking that money, and they'll do okay. And it's very tempting. It's very tantalizing, but yet I know who they are behind closed doors, and they're, either not making offers in the right place in their business, or they still are doing everything themselves and they don't have virtual assistants. And they're still, by the way, you can still make $500,000, $800,000 a year and not have a virtual assistant. I'm not saying it's a good idea, but it can happen, right? And so I see the back end of who they are on the back end, and they're clearly not business coaches, but they're taking that business on because they can make some money on it. So watch the temptation of chasing money, because chasing money, you could be in a full-time job and your heart is calling you over here to create a mentorship program, or to create like a homeschooling system, or to become a stay-at-home mom, which is a job, right? Your heart could be calling you over here, but like you're holding on to the money. And so watch that temptation, because in scripture, that would be the enemy is trying to pull you off course, because if you go down the course that you're being called to, you're going to have this huge explosion of faith, abundance, and growth. And so look at that. Become really obsessed with one thing. Let me take it into more of a tactical place. If you are, say you have to hire. So right now I've been on a big hiring frenzy for the last year and a half inside of HeartCore. And so I've had to master hiring and get comfortable in hiring and get over the, oh my God, hiring is the hardest thing ever, which I said for about 6 months to a year inside my business. Like, hiring is the hardest thing you're ever going to do, is finding people to replace you to continue to grow the business. And now I'm not in that conversation. I have a new light, because I've stayed obsessed with getting good at hiring. So this could be also with webinars. I have been doing the same webinar for a year and a half. And some months when I change a new tweak to that webinar, I'll do it 4 or 5 times over 5 weeks, or over 3 weeks. I might do it 4 or 5 times over 3 weeks. But traditionally, I'll do it once a week until I feel like I've mastered that piece, and then I'll let that webinar roll. So look at your life and look in your business and be like, how many things are you one-offing, right? You're like, okay, I tried a webinar and I did okay. Let me just let that go and let it go into evergreen, which means it's playing without you. And nothing happens. It doesn't produce anything. But you just kind of pretend like it's not there, and you did that. And what next distracting thing can I go after to figure out how to master? Don't do that. That one little thing, and I'm going to talk about this in step 2, that one little thing of mastering can really quantum leap your business so that you're not so frustrated, right? So a webinar can bring in, $20, $30, $100,000 a week if you mastered it. A week if you mastered it. But how many times since you've been taught how to do it have you actually practiced it and done the same thing over and over and over again, instead of being frustrated about it not working, going, okay, let me see what's not working. If I look at the attendees, are they staying on right to the end? Okay, they're staying on right to the end. Okay, so maybe I'm over teaching and they're confused. Let me ask some questions on my next webinar to get the chat roll rolling. And your chat roll is like a survey. And look at the chat roll and see what's going on. I watched a chat roll once. I was doing a webinar, the same webinar for Infusionsoft and their client base. and I watched the chat base, and I had all these questions about like how this model can help all these different industries. But there was one main industry, which was network marketing. And I was shocked. I was like, I never ever thought that people would ever ask that question. So on my next webinar, I took that one thing and I shared a network marketing example of how my model actually helped one of our clients get 27 reps in 1 week. From one webinar, our model helped her get 27 reps. I mean, that sure beats like home meetings, and then, Alex Arriaga, imagine if you did that webinar for investors, right? And so it's like, there's these little things that if you optimize them, you would actually get a huge result, and it would move the lever on your business so you don't have to work so hard. The internet is a leverage. Online marketing is a leverage place. And the things that you learn, if you obsess about mastering them, you're going to find that your lever goes whoop, and you can move into millions really quickly. The second thing that I talked about is no one's going to do it for yourself. And this is that lever thing. I talked to this guy at my mastermind, and he's really good at moving the big dials. And the big dials are, I want you to ask yourself this question: what is the one thing, if you take step number one, obsessing about one thing, if you obsessed about one thing in your business right now, what would be that one thing that would turn the big lever? Now, it might not be what you think. So for many of my clients, it's actually hiring a salesperson, hiring somebody who can go vet out, either set up a sale, so it can either be Alex, like a bird dog for you in some way, or it could be someone to go find people to watch your webinar that you create so that you could be the person, if you've got legal reasons for real estate, right, for raising capital. It might be like you create the webinar training and you have somebody bird dog people to send that to. So bird dog is a real estate term. For a coach or consultant, it might be what one of your clients is so amazing that you could actually teach them how to sell. And so that would be a big dial. So I have a client right now who, Karina, who made more money this quarter than she made all of last year. And she did two things. She hired me in the 1% club. So she hired it'd be like doing a VIP day with me. And so she put her investment on the line, which does hold you accountable. And then secondly, I taught her how to actually hire a couple salespeople who actually ended up being from our community. And so we have tons of entrepreneurs in our community who are powerhouses. And so she moved those two big dials, right? Like, I pay $100,000 a year for my mentorship. And that was, honestly, I get way less coaching. I mean, I've been trying to get a hold of my coach, by the way, I'm not kidding you, for over a month and haven't gotten my answer. And so it's not about me being spoon-fed. It's about that big dial of that investment, like a VIP day or something like that. It could be the big dial that gets you motivated. When I couldn't stop myself from being on my phone, I hired Craig from A Perfect Day Formula, and I paid him $25,000 for a VIP day. I'm telling you, that phone is in that box. It was in that box last night. It was in that box almost all day yesterday. It's in the box so that I can actually be with my family and be a great mom. Otherwise, I'm guilty. I do not have enough willpower to stay off Facebook, Instagram. I don't have enough willpower to do that. And so with that being said, instead of beating myself up, saying, you are a bad mom, you are a bad entrepreneur, I can't believe that you can't stay off your phone and be present, I put the stupid phone in a box so that I'm powerfully putting systems around my life so that I invest in my future and I invest in my present moment. So look at, what are the big dials in your business? Is it learning a webinar and mastering it? Then be okay with it. Might take you 1 month, 1 week, or it might take you a year and a half to master that webinar. Don't compare yourself to anybody else, because who the F cares? All that matters is it turns that big dial. And trust me, people will be coming to you asking you, how are you doing it? You're like, really? I just stopped doing all the other things that I was doing. So look at, first of all, step number 1 is obsess about one thing. Step number 2 is take that obsession and put it towards a big dial inside your business, a really big dial. The third thing I want to talk to you about, which is all of this stuff is around one focus, which is how do you focus on this to be able to turn it up. And I'm breaking down the focus. This is the one thing that entrepreneurs can do to go from 0 to 1 million. I'm not kidding you. You don't have to have a ton of talent to do this. You do have to think like this though. The third thing is that you need to optimize what's in your space. So remember, you got step number 1, which is learn how to obsess about one thing, which means you have to turn everything else off. Then the second thing is where I'm going to put that focus on one big dial so that I can leverage and turn it up in my business. So that dial goes whoop. If you were to ask my friend Bedros, he's like, I've just gotten really good at focusing on the big dial. He doesn't operate on Facebook. He doesn't check inboxes. He's not all over Facebook comments. He doesn't do any of that stuff because he's looking at the one. He doesn't sign checks. He also doesn't go and fix. He shared something with me a few months ago where he went and fixed something in the house for his wife, and then he had somebody else take a client of his that could have been like a huge sale, and they lost the sale because he was fixing something for his wife. So pay attention to hiring the handyman to do those things for you, or ladies, hiring somebody to help you nanny. And I'm not saying outsource your child or parenting. I'm saying have somebody help you nanny, have somebody help you around the house. Don't do your own laundry. Stop doing those things. Even if you can't afford them, I'm telling you, you will miss turning the big dial. And so therefore you will struggle forever. The third thing is in the focus piece is you need to optimize your thinking. So I went to a mastermind just recently, my mastermind, and honestly, and I'm going to be really honest, it was not the best mastermind I've ever been to this round. The only one out of all of them that in 2 years that honestly, I was like, why am I here? Have you ever been in those moments? You're like, why am I here? Like, we talked not one bit about business really for 2 days. And I just finished coming back from Barbados. I've been in Barbados for 2 weeks. I was home for 2.5 days, and then I flew out to go to my mastermind. But you can't sit in that moment. So the minute I noticed myself in that conversation, I said to myself, okay, really, like, why am I here? Okay, well, maybe I'm here just to help people. Maybe I'm going to have a breakthrough. And that's my first go-to. My first go-to is what I started this, 6 a.m. coffee with Shanda with, is the quickest way to increase your worthiness, because sometimes you can't see a strategy because you don't feel like you're worthy of the strategy, right? There'll be people who come to me and say, help me grow my business. And I'll lay out the plan. They're like, I don't think I'm ready for that. I'm like, yeah, you are. You've been praying for this for a long time. Stop blocking the success. Then that becomes fear of success. And I believe fear of success is greater than fear of failure, because fear of failure you can see. Fear of success you can't see. It's really hard to see because you've convinced yourself that you're not ready. You've convinced yourself that you don't have enough. And so you've convinced yourself to control your growth. And that is the biggest facade bullshit story that convinces us to hold back from creating millions. And so we try to control and push ourselves into success. But the way to do it is to actually let go, which means that in this moment, there are people who study with me that don't watch Coffee with Shanda. If you're in our community and you watch Coffee with Shanda, you get to seriously go wake some people up and say, you need to start watching Coffee with Shanda, even if it's not at 6 a.m. and you're watching the replay. Ask somebody on my team to even message you the replay Monday through Friday. Whatever it is, ask somebody to remind you, get a buddy to help you, stay accountable and debrief the Coffees with Shanda. But I give some incredible content that is valuable content that I would give to my private clients that you could use to move those big dials and optimize your thinking. And so use what's in your space to optimize. If you belong to a mastermind, even if it's not my mastermind, and you're not showing up to the calls because you're not showing up to the masterminds, you can't expect these huge breakthroughs. And so what I guarantee you're doing is working really hard at what you're working on, and you're missing the leverage points. You don't know when these leverage points are going to come together, and so you've got to put yourself in the arena of success. And so the first thing that we like to do when we're avoiding success is we get really, really busy. So the biggest challenge is for success to come in is busy energy. And so I really recommend you put the breath in. Put the breath into your day. If you're too busy to meditate, you're too busy. If you're too busy to work out, you're too busy. If you're too busy to show up to your mastermind trainings, you are definitely too busy, which means that you, my darling or sir, are facing a fear of success. If that's happening in your space, success is trying to bust through and you are preventing it from coming through. And so I invite you to look at these 3 things, and I'll just repeat them for you. And if you're just joining Coffee with Shanda, go back up and re-listen to it. Just stop this replay. If you're on Instagram, you can find us on HeartCoreBusiness.com, or you can find us on HeartCore Business on Facebook. And you can find this replay all the way from the beginning. But go back, and now this is what I want you to do after this Coffee with Shanda. Take a piece of paper and say, what is the one thing that if I focused on it, obsessed about it, and optimized my thinking, that I could move this big dial inside of my business? What would that be? Is it you need to hire a virtual assistant? Is it you need to hire a nanny? Is it you need to start working out? Is it that you need to figure out how to do a webinar? Is it you need to hire a salesperson? Is it you need to hire somebody who can find sales for you? Is it that you need to build a bigger email list? Is it that you need to figure out your signature talk? What is it? Is it that you need to hire a mentor? Is it that you need to invest more? What is it for you? And then obsess about that. So those 3 things come together as one main thing that transforms entrepreneurs from 0 to millions. And I've coached over 3,000 people at this point. And that's basically my last year's number of 3,000. I know I've coached many more at this point. I just haven't re-added them up. My point is that you can do this. You can do this. I promise you, you can do this. You just have to change the way that you think. All right, with that being said, if there's anything I could do, please feel free to send me a private inbox message. Have patience with me. I'm not an asshole because I don't get back to you in 2 seconds. I will get back to you. And sometimes it takes me a few days because of our inboxes that come through. But if I can help you and you want to send me a private inbox message, please go ahead and do that. And otherwise, use these 3 steps to focus on this one main thing to optimize yourself to $1 million. It's amazing how generous you can be at 7 figures. It's amazing how your vision starts to get bigger after 7 figures, where you start to look at multiple 7 figures and 8 figures. At the end of the day, your life matters. And the more people that you can help in your life and the more money you can make just tells me how many people you've actually helped. So let's optimize our lives, optimize our ability to help more people, and just use marketing to create a movement in your life. All right, I'll talk to you soon. See you tomorrow morning on 6 a.m. Coffee with Shanda. Bye.